moving on to the weekend. I mean, it got interesting. We got these series at 3-2. We had Brooklyn, Milwaukee. We had Clippers, Jazz. Were some surprise wins in Game 5. We have Sixers and Hawks. And all these games had interesting outcomes this weekend. I don't even know where to start, man, because it was so interesting. Look, the Nets, Milwaukee, everybody knows the thrill of that. Went to overtime, was fantastic. Nets probably could have won it if Kevin Durant doesn't step on the line and hit that three so at the end of regulation. Still a crazy shot. Tremendous series by Durant. Giannis actually played within his strengths for most of the game and had a pretty good performance as well, too, despite his offensive limitations. Amazing how some people can do that and some people cannot. That is amazing in itself. But I think the thing you got to talk about out the weekend, then we can also, Brian's laughing, because Giannis follows the rule on my shirt. And for those not watching this podcast, because you miss 100% of the shots, you don't take. Some people don't take shots. We will get to that.
He takes them for sure.
A little bit. At least Giannis takes them. We got to respect that. So we got that. That was a crazy finish. Milwaukee moves on in Game 7. Then we had the Clippers coming back. This is 2-2 with the Jazz, Brian. Kawhi goes out. All of us are thinking this is probably over. No, it's not. Who steps up? The man who y'all been waiting for memes on PG-13.
Rudy Gobert.
Oh. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. No, Rudy Gobert did not step up, actually. And we'll get to that. But Paul George stepped up and Terrence Mann stepped up. Reggie Jackson was great all series. The Clippers winning in 6. The Jazz, number 1 seed, they're gone. So we saw Game 7, Bucks win, number 1 seed, Jazz is out. And then to end the weekend. Oh, man. Woo! Look, I'm going to tell y'all this. Brian, I spoke with some of my friends who live in Philly, who are Sixers fans, big-time Sixers fans, 2 of my boys down in Philly, and one of them texted me, and he told me before Game 7, Sixers-Hawks, that he was nervous. He could see the Sixers losing this. He was disgusted with Ben Simmons. Disgusted. Another friend, he kind of wanted him out of town already, whatever. But Game 7, Sixers-Hawks. Man. If you're a Sixers fan, you're going through it right now. And you're going through it. And here's the thing. I grew up a Knicks fan. I know what it's like to see a player, I don't know how the Sixers fans feel about Ben Simmons, but I saw a player I like have a bad postseason performance. John Starks went 2 for 18 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But you know what happened there? John Starks shot the ball. People also forget John Starks had a fantastic Game 6 the game before. He just had an off night in the big game. This Game 7, Brian, Ben Simmons didn't show up.
What a shock.
Oh, what
Holy
a shock.
shit.
Oh, my God. He didn't show up.
Yo, man.
He didn't show up at all. Were you shocked, Brian? You said the sarcasm was clearly dripping there. You were not.
Oh, my God. I was super petrified. He took 6 fourth-quarter shots in 2019, and he took half of that in the fourth quarters of this series this year. In 2019, in the semifinals against the Toronto Raptors, that is. I did a study last week, and a thought exercise.
Yes.
Appreciate it. A thought exercise, if you will, about just that whole dynamic in hindsight where Tobias Harris has a bad series. Ben Simmons has a really bad series. Joel Embiid also had a bad series, though he was struggling with an illness. This is all against the Raptors. JJ Redick, not as impactful as he had been at different times throughout the year. And Jimmy Butler was basically being the Jimmy Butler that we later saw with the Miami Heat last year in particular, and was the reason they lost on a bounce to the Raptors instead of getting blown out in 5 games, which is probably what would have happened because that Raptors team was very good. Had Kawhi Leonard missed that shot, they would have went to overtime, and who knows what would have happened. It's entirely possible that the Raptors still would have won because, overtime on your home floor, that's something you generally finish out, although the Brooklyn Nets failed to do so because they had, run out of gas, or at least Kevin Durant did, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So from there, they decided to max Tobias Harris, max Ben Simmons, keep Brett Brown, and Jimmy Butler is the one that is allowed to walk, and they end up trading him to Miami in the deal where they get back, Josh Richardson and, Al Horford later joins the team, which obviously didn't work and things of that nature. Like there's a lot going on there. And, Jimmy Butler goes to Miami and they go to the NBA finals as soon as he leaves Philly. And if you're Philly, you have to look at that and be like, we fucked up. Instead, it's entirely possible that regardless, Jimmy wanted to, you know, go to Miami regardless. But he is cool with Joel Embiid. He likes Joel Embiid very much, which has been reported by Heat reporters, things of that nature. He does not really mess with Ben Simmons like that, nor did he mess with Brett Brown like that. Um, Tobias Harris, I'm totally like unsure about. But I wonder what would have happened if Philly would have been able to, at the time, have some foresight, not give Tobias Harris the extension, try to see what they could get for Ben Simmons, who would have been entering the max contract extension by that point, and actually keep Jimmy Butler, where your team then becomes Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler. You would have to get a new head coach, which we were saying they should have did at the time because we pretty much knew Brett Brown wasn't going to be the answer there, right? So it's Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and then you would have had, whatever else built around them. You would have been able to do it because evidently, if you had enough money to max out Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, you could have maxed out only Jimmy Butler and, try to find some parts around that. Building a team around Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler would have been interesting. You know what I mean? So we'll see. I mean, with Philly now, it's like, look, you sort of get what you earn. And a lot of people, such as myself, been saying since Ben Simmons was on his rookie contract, like, not quite sure he has it. Great defensive player, although, not necessarily a lockdown defensive player. And I'll cut him some slack there because it's hard to be a lockdown defender in this era of the NBA where the rules are all geared toward the offense. He's still very good at what he does on that end. But to be somebody who's only shooting 4 attempts in 30 plus, almost 40-minute games, as talented as you are, like, dog, you can't be scared to take shots or get to the line or do all these things. Like, that's not max player activity. And I can't say that
Facts.
I'm surprised here. I can't say that I'm surprised, unfortunately. And we can't see Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons on the same team again. We just can't.
I don't see how that is. Let me go back to some stuff you said, because I thought in the piece you wrote for Deadspin, I thought you hit on some stuff that was really good, including the fact of, like, the mistake was letting Butler go. Absolutely mistake. They chose Brett Brown pretty much and Tobias Harris over Butler. And I think that was absolutely a mistake. The reason being a mistake is they did not have a closer. And you saw this many times in the series. They did not have a guy whose hands they could put the ball in to be able to get easy shots. You have to give it to
They were
Joel
trying,
Embiid.
right? They were trying to do it to Joel Embiid 25 feet away from the basket.
You can't do that. You're making his life harder, especially on a torn meniscus. It is not fair to Joel Embiid. And a lot of that goes on your primary ball handler, who is Ben Simmons, has a lot of liabilities. One, he won't shoot, which is why I never was high on Ben Simmons, other than being a good defensive player and rebounder, because he just won't shoot. He refuses to shoot.
Yep.
Two, you can't keep the ball in his hands late in games because he can't hit free throws. That's a problem. Doc Rivers had to sit him multiple times in this game. Now, you have to wonder if this is the end of the process. Brian says it is. You can't see these two leagues together. The process, the whole point of the process was to acquire stars, right? That was it. Oh, the Sixers got one. They got themselves a superstar in Joel Embiid, undoubtedly. They advertised this to the people as they had two. And they didn't have two. They don't have two. They have one. Ben Simmons is out here stealing money right now, right? He's being paid as a max player, and he's not a max player. A max player has to shoot the ball. A max player cannot do the embarrassment that we saw in that game 7. Seriously, and I texted with Brian and a group chat that we had at the time. Ben Simmons had who was guarding him in the post on that possession? I'm trying to remember. Was it Herter? I think Herter was on him.
I think it might have been Herter, but I will say this also. When he did pass it, when he was about to go up and he was wide open, the closest defender to him was Trae Young.
You gotta dunk that ball.
Right.
I'll try to put the video up here in the play for people to see it who are watching this podcast. But he has Herter on him. And I was thinking at the time, okay, this is great by the Sixers. They're actually running some offense through Simmons in the post where he's got some height, got a mismatch, and he could easily excel because he finishes decently around the rim. He makes a spin move to his left. He has clearly got Herter beat. All he has to do is go up and dunk it. 6'10", Ben Simmons. What does Ben Simmons do? Brian already tells you. He passes the ball to Matisse Thybulle.
That's
He
the
passed
thing.
the ball. The reason he passed the ball is simple. I put this to text. It's because he was afraid of the contact and doesn't want to go to the line
Great point.
where he shot 34% in the series. If you're that afraid to go to the line, you're
Yeah.
not a max player.
Yeah.
People talk about Giannis and his struggles, but Giannis shoots the ball.
By the way,
Giannis, 1 second, B.
yeah.
Giannis, when he goes to the line, I think when Giannis gets the ball in his hand, all right, he's a little afraid. He get a little bit unnerved by everything that's going on and shooting the free throws. Ben Simmons is afraid before the ball touches his hand. It's straight hot potato with him. Oh, nope, don't want it. I don't want it. Can't have it. He doesn't want it at all. That's a problem. And if you're a Sixer fan right now, I can totally understand why you'd be furious about this. I can totally understand why you'd be upset today. You have a guy out here that seems like he doesn't want to do it. And I'm not trying to clown Ben Simmons in that way, but it at least appears like he does not have the heart for this. And when I say heart for this, it's just that something is going on psychologically. And I hope that he can figure it out. I'm not here to clown Ben Simmons. I hope that he can figure it out. But something, and I think a lot of times when we look at sports and athletics, it's about what goes on in between here, right? And having that mental toughness. And it's like, all right, I'm not saying Ben Simmons has to be the closer. I'm not saying he has to be a 20-point per game scorer. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you spin on Kevin Huerter and the dunk is there, you got to dunk that ball. And as Brian astutely pointed out, Trae Young was the closest defender to him. So if Trae Young fouls you, you still got to eat that and dunk it, and you pass the ball. You know what? You can't come back to Philly. You can't go back and play in Philly. I don't see how he can come back and play in the same town. How does Joel Embiid look at him the same? Did you see what Joel Embiid had to say after that? That was somebody telling me, I don't want to play with this man anymore.
He definitely threw him under the bus, but he couldn't avoid it. You know what I mean? Like he tried to too. You look at the answer, he was trying to. Like he was trying to figure out a way to say it. But then for those listening, he basically
I slightly disagree with you. Because I feel like Joel Embiid knew exactly what the intent of that comment was going to be. He wanted to make it seem like he was trying, but he wanted him to be under the bus. He's like, nope, get this dude out of town. This is me letting the front office, everybody know. Did you see what happened? My man passed up 2. We didn't get 2. And what should be noted is Matisse Thybulle went to the line, hit 1 or 2 free throws when he could have got a guaranteed 2 or possibly an and 1. But the so-called other max player, the other superstar, part of the process, didn't want to dunk the ball.